Here on a sunny morning and getting to drink some old Carter with Mark Carter. I mean, how much better does it get than this?
Well, it's great to have you guys here, that's for sure. And I know most of you have never been up here yet to the Social Club. And
just for the record, you're my favorite Carter. Jimmy's like number 3.
You know, we sell a lot of whiskey and wine to people. Their name's Carter. You know, we also make wine out in California. So, but yeah, it's nice to show you our place. We have 350 members of the club, roughly. And some of them, we only have like about 230 lockers, but we have a virtual too that you can be a club member. And so we have usually try to get about 6 releases a year for our club members.
And you're right off, like, so if people come down to Whiskey Row, you're just off of Whiskey Row, sitting on the corner of the block with Justin's House of Bourbon. So kind of as a point of reference for people who don't know.
That's correct. I mean, we're not open to the public. We don't have enough staff. We're very small. This really is a production facility downstairs where we bottle at. Upstairs here is where we, have our club members come and set up an appointment, and then we will pour you some of the new releases that you have purchased.
This is Alan Bishop, head alchemist at Spirits of French Lick. Be on the lookout for our brand new bottled and bond Solomon Scott rye whiskey. Made from a mash composed of 65% rye, 35% corn, and 5% victory malt. This 5-year-old 100 proof rye whiskey is a throwback to early 1800s style rye whiskeys of the Ohio Valley. Named after the legendary Daisy Spring Mill distillery owner turned moonshiner Solomon Scott of Paoli, Indiana. Remember, drink responsibly and never drink and drive.
Yeah, it's a great, what an awesome, very place.
So how is the building, Mark?
Well, the building's in the 1880s.
Yes.
It was built and has quite a history. Actually, there's distillers that have been here in the history of the building. It was pretty run down. These upstairs of the building, there's actually 3. There's 103, 105, and 101, which is Justin's House of Bourbon. And we're right on the corner, like you say. It's First and Market.
Okay. Yeah.
So how long have you been in this building?
We bought this building in actually beginning of 2019. And,
oh, really? So you were planning that?
Yes. And we opened up with Justin's House of Bourbon first. They were at the end of 2019 for Thanksgiving weekend. And it was very busy down here at that point, and then a couple months later, we hit COVID and really slowed down. And that gave us time to actually fix this space up. Actually, this was done after we did the downstairs. We opened up with the downstairs at the end of 2020. We had one of our friends did an event here, Scotch in Time and Bourbon in Time. Eric Campbell.
Let's do it.
So you guys did a good intro. Thank you so much, Mark, for having us here. And what we're going to do real quick is once we start, we're already live on Facebook, but once we start the audio podcast, there's going to be a 30-second spot. Alan Bishop does a podcast.
Yes.
So he sponsors, and so it's called If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything. So that'll play for 30 seconds. We kind of try and be quiet. Then you'll hear the theme song, and we're ready to roll.
Okay.
All right? So,
Play on spirits.
Chris, you're starting off, too. You're going to kick off. I'll give you the intros and everybody who's here, but your first question.
Oh, boy.
And your second question. And then then you can tell them what I drink when you ask me what I want to drink, right? I'm honestly, Mark, I'm nervous.
I mean, this is unicorn.
This is my thing, and it's just like,
we said at Christmas time, we were sitting in Jeff's basement at Christmas, and that's when Nash had got him the batch 9. And it was like, if you know anything about Jeff, it's like old Carter is everything. And if batch 9 exists, he's like even better. So that was a lot of fun.
It actually started out, a couple of Christmases ago, I met him up here in Indiana. We were going to Spirits of French Lick, and so I brought up, on my way up, I had stopped and picked up a couple of bottles of, it was actually
Kentucky one.
Yeah, Kentucky one. And opened it up, and oh my gosh, he almost drank about half that bottle that night, because I brought him up some other bottles too. And it was like, well, don't you want to taste any of it? No.
Aren't you going to tell this story anyway when we're on the podcast?
Yeah.
Let's go on. Let's go ahead and get started.
Tool or anything, but I'm like, I know we're going to get a rerun of this. In 7 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. All right, everybody. Welcome to Old Carter Club, right? Wait, you said Social Club.
Yeah,
Old Carter Social Club. Yes, and this is a place where we'll talk about it once we get going. All right, we're going to start the recording now. So everybody. There's going to be a 30-second pause, and then you'll hear the music, and we'll get going.
Sure fun to watch. We love what we do. We're drinking every brew, and we talk some shit, but we're telling the truth. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, raisins in hell and making some noise. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. We're here to have fun, and we hope you enjoy. We're here to have fun.
You know, if it wasn't for technical
It lost the Wi-Fi. Yes,
if it wasn't for technical difficulties.
Woo!
Yes,
Here we are. I gotta just get off that so that it doesn't kick in. All right. So welcome to another podcast for the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. What I'll do is on the audio, I'll just drop that in. I can do that when I get back.
And here we are with Tiny.
And we've got Super Nash, we've got whiskey, we've got CT Barrelhead, and we have a very special guest, Mark Carter, from a lot of different things. Introduce yourself of all the different. I can't even follow it, But when it comes to spirits, you've got it covered, right?
Well, we've been very fortunate. I've started out many years ago with just building and then built a big house and turned it into an inn. And so I became an innkeeper, had my own restaurant, still have the restaurant, and have a couple of cookbooks that we did for the restaurant. And I was the wine buyer for the restaurant, and ended up buying everybody's wine. Pretty soon I got tired of buying other people's wine, so we started making wine in 98. And in 98 was a good year for us too. It was also, we got the Grand Award from Wine Spectator, which there's only 100 of those in the world. And it's one of these lists that's by maybe 4,000 selections. And after buying all those wines, when we started the winery, it was called Carter Cellars, and that did well. And then we bought a winery in Napa in 2006, and with a partner, Nils Dengi is my partner in the winery, and we make Envy wines there, which is one of our brands, and then we do Carter Cellars there. And once we bought the winery, we weren't making too much money. We were losing money, actually, and we decided we'd start making wine for other people. And since I was an innkeeper, I asked all my innkeeping friends if anybody wanted to make some wine, and only one guy in America said yes. It just so happened that he was from Kentucky, and it was. I knew his dad. His dad told me a story. Chuck Dedman told me that they used to make bourbon, and I said, well, instead of making wine, why don't we, make bourbon and bring your brand back? And he said we could do that, and I said, yeah, Dixon, we can do anything we set our minds to. And so we brought back Kentucky Owl, and we started that in 2012. And that went really well, and that sold in 2017. And we weren't quite done. We decided that we wanted to stay in Kentucky, and we started Old Carter Whiskey Company in 2017, bought barrels, and started distilling. So we have our own distillate that's now 7 years old. And so that kind of brings you up to date. And,
You've done a lot. Yeah.
Well, wow, that was, I mean, there's a lot in there. I mean,
you should have a TED Talks. Or we can just turn this into TED Talks.
Whatever you like. The answer is always yes. That's how you get where you're at.
Can I send my wife to that school?
So when you started buying barrels, initially you were buying barrels for Kentucky Owl, correct?
That is correct.
And then then when this transferred, you, like you said, you weren't done, so you must have had a certain amount of stock for that. Or did Kentucky Owl keep it and you have to start over? Yeah,
it was interesting. We actually had Kentucky Bourbon distilled for us with Kentucky Owl. We had 4 different distillers that you probably know of, all the brands, and that all went. We did like 25 barrels with each one of them. And that did go with Kentucky Owl. And so we had to start over. We started buying, basically from the people, either, MGP, or we were lucky enough to get some really beautiful Kentucky straight. And we're going to have one of those today. This one's a 15-year-old. We bought it when it was almost 12 years old, back in 17. So some of the stuff is 17 years old now. Those are Kentucky straive. Single barrels.
That sounds
so
awfully good.
Yeah. So as far as the distillate that you've distilled,
yes.
That's when will that start to appear? Just when it's ready, when you feel it's ready, or do you have a goal?
Most everything we have and always have is at least 7 years old. We've never had anything younger than 7 years old. We start working with it about 6 to 7. We've already started working with our distillate that we had contracted with. One of the things we were known for with Kentucky Owl, all the Kentucky Owl, the first batches, batch 1 to 6, were all double oaked, double barreled, and we didn't really tell anybody with different char levels because that was kind of our thing at that point. We wanted to keep things a little secret so that people didn't just go out and do the same thing we did. But we were one of the first, in 2012, even though over at Woodford Reserve did it too. They kept theirs in barrel for about, I think, no more than 6 months, maybe less. Yeah. We kept ours in barrel for 3 years, so nobody saw our stuff until 3 years later when we turned it out, which was about 2014.
Yeah.
So there's a certain amount of what you do, and and what Dixon was doing, and then you can tell throughout all the industries what happens is that there's a certain amount of what you do has to do with the quality of the people and the palates that are tasting and then putting out the batches, because a lot of times like you said, there's a lot of people with the same whiskey because it's out there.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean the flavors are going to be the same. And I would say, as far as how you guys have been doing this and what's come out is, so to me, this is me personally, exceptionally above the bar of other stuff that's coming out, even though the other stuff that comes out is good. But in my opinion, this is my great. So there's so much, put into it. And I think it really comes down to your background. Your palate is also in wines. And when you taste a lot into wines and you compare it, because I really believe you have to admit, the whiskey industry kind of, when they started coming up with all the small batches and everything, was mirroring the success of the California wineries. And you look at, even Bardstown Bourbon Company and all the places, you look at how they build their distilleries and their experience is very similar to what the wineries were doing, correct?
Actually, I think the whiskey business has done an even almost a better job these days than the wine industry with the experiences. All the things I'm seeing, up and down the street here at Whiskey Row, it's unbelievable. They're really educating people.
Mm-hmm.
And we never really had to do that in Napa. You just came in and tasted, and you like what we did. We show you around the winery maybe a little bit, and you hopefully bought wine from us. And at the beginning, it was free. It was a free tasting originally. Now, that so many people come to Napa, you have to start charging for the tasting and kind of curate that tasting too. But we knew when we started that we were going to be small, we were going to be craft, and everything we were going to do would be different. Just like the wine, every year our wine is different because of the vintage. And we can't duplicate it to speak of. We didn't get close. In some years, it's going to be way better than other years. Mm-hmm. And we didn't want it to be the same because there's wonderful legacy brands that can do that. We wanted to give them something that that was unique and different. And it was always it's always been barrel strength too. We've never ever put a drop of water in any of the two brands that we've had.
That's one thing that I enjoy is each time that I'm able to procure a bottle is being able to taste the different batches and how unique the different flavors are between the batches. And I know, like I say, that you try to replicate it in some ways, but you can't. But each one is so different and such a great profile.
Well, that's a great explanation, but in reality, Mark, you have to admit, consistency was always such a huge thing for the industry, right? As far as whiskey goes, that was like the big thing. Everybody wanted to try and put consistency. But if you drink a Dusty of Jim Beam or a Dusty Jack Daniels and you drink those, they're not close. I mean, it evolves. And I will say that, people, although the distilling aspect takes a lot of the grain, can take a lot of those grains out, the flavor. But they're just like in grapes, there's better years for corn, better years for wheat, and I don't care. It's going to affect the whiskey from year to year to some extent, and
the weather alone too, just for whiskey in the rick houses. When you actually pull the barrel out and taste the barrel, if it's winter or if it's summer, it makes all the difference also. And one of the cool things that happened this last year was the collaboration that we did with Bardstown Bourbon Company. It was the first time we really got to taste the barrels from different levels of the rick house. And it was unbelievable, even in 14 months, that we actually put the distill it into our wine barrels and put it on 3 different levels. And we had to move it out of the top floor because all we were getting was basically alcohol flavors. And, so we moved them back down. When we started, it was unbelievable that we started with almost 96 proof, and it ended up being about 108 proof. So, it rose in alcohol on that top floor, but we were losing all the wonderful flavors. Mm-hmm. And so we moved it down, and that's kind of like the terroir of wine country is that rick house, in my estimation, these days.
Yeah.
Mark, you have a very unique perspective. And I realize we have a bourbon podcast, but with your background in winemaking, I have hung out with some winery owners in the past, and they've always said that the more stress the grape has, the better the wine.
Yes.
So I'm kind of wondering, does that carry over into the whiskey market? I mean, the bigger the fluctuations in the summer, if you have more 90-degree days and more 20-degree lows, I mean, is that better for the whiskey? I mean, you're one of the few people that might even pull that information together and kind of relate it to that winemaking business.
You're correct. The stressed years, the years that are drought driven, usually are better flavor for us. That gets ripe enough, and it doesn't set as much grapes out there in the vineyard. The less yield on the vine, usually the better the quality of the wine and the grape.
Wow.
And so this you really want a nice even ripening year. If there's a lot of stuff going into making wine, but it's pretty simple in some ways. If it doesn't rain, doesn't frost, if it doesn't get too hot during the season, if you have a nice evening ripening year, which our 23 is going, they say, is one of the best years we've had in 40 years.
Wow.
And I was out there and actually got to see it and taste the grapes as we go down the rows. It almost tastes like wine when we were tasting the grapes, and we knew that it was so flavorful.
So what parallels do you draw from that experience into the whiskey world?
Well, most of it was, the barrel was such a big thing for us, and wine. If you take a Chardonnay grape, you don't have much flavor there. It's all about the barrel, what kind of barrel, new barrel, used barrel. Most everything we do in wine is all French oak. There are some people who do American oak.
And they don't char the barrels for wine because you're not looking for that caramelized sugar. You're trying to
get
enhance
toasted levels. You might go anything from just a regular toast.
You don't need to char to extract any of the bad.
It's almost it's almost too much with a charred barrel for grapes and wine. But that's why we double oaked everything. We knew it would give more flavor at the very beginning when we did that with Kentucky Owl.
So let me ask you real quick, because you've handed us all a glass of whiskey here. What are we drinking here today?
Well, this is a club.
Starting out with
this is a bourbon, a very small batch. This is 525 bottles that were produced for the club up here, and this is we do have a couple of different mash bills we sometimes use to blend. This could be, we love, this is all MGP. This is, this is a five barrel blend is what this is, or 3 barrel. This is about a 3 barrel blend. 525 is a 3 barrel blend. We get the 700, it's 5 barrel blend, with this 7 or 8 year old. And, so, this could be a 99, or 99.1 for the MGP that we use a lot of, but we also use some stuff that's like 23, right?
99.1 is 99. This isn't a rye. This is a bourbon.
Corn, yeah.
Corn. So it's 99 corn, 1% bar.
Yes, exactly.
This does not taste any
the nose
MGP.
on this
Yes.
I mean,
The nose is insane.
the nose. There's very little ethanol that comes through. It's just that's.
We don't like the alcohol,
We do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I like high proof, but I'm not a chaser high proof because I've tasted some really wonderful things that are only like 98 proof, but they are, barrel proof, and they were never cut, and that's great flavor too. Just probably lower in a rick house to get that lower.
The thing I noticed immediately, smell was fantastic because I got a lot of toffee and the vanillas out of it, but the mouthfeel immediately is like butter. Like going in immediately.
Oh,
it's like a melted butter going
No, it's like caramel corn because you put the butter into the caramel and then it's insane.
It completely coats the palate.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
it's
good like butter.
viscosity.
I haven't taken.
Butter toffee
drink it.
popcorn.
Yeah.
Butter toffee popcorn all day.
My grandmother was from Somerset, Kentucky, and Eastern Kentucky. So basically, probably moonshiners out there. They grew a lot of corn, and I love corn. It's in my DNA, and so high corn mash bills are where I love. I love everything, and just like wine, I love all varietals of grapes. But we do make mostly Cabernet.
Well, there's a big difference of a corn that's young and a corn that's got some age. Because when it gets aged, then you start getting the butteriness to it. When it's young, then it's like, the corn's a little overpowering. This blends out really, really well.
Yes.
It goes right down the line of everything that I taste. Like this is what I'm in it for. There's some, I've tasted this very, throughout other brands, you taste this kind of consistency of this kind of a whiskey is what you're putting out all the time. I mean, but how many people that's a bourbon and it's 99.1, you said.
Yes.
I mean, that in itself is special of what you're doing because you know, if you go by Mellow Corn, for instance, by Heaven, it has a corn flavor to it. There's no doubt. You would call it you would call it corn, like a corn. This still is right in the bourbon category right here of fantasticness.
Yeah.
So what batch number is this, Mark?
This is OC. I think it was the 3, yeah. And so, and this is 117 proof actually.
It's right in my sweet
And
spot.
I love the mouthfeel. We always shoot for mouthfeel, both in the wine and the whiskey. The same thing. Carry it through that deep, rich flavors, and kind of darker notes usually, but with some fruit notes in there too.
Can I ask you about why you went with that style bottle label? Or
We like stuff that looks kind of like it's been around for a while. Old Carter. Kentucky Owl was actually almost the exact label that was put out until about 1914, 1879 when it was founded. I like the tall bottle. Being in restaurant business, the taller the bottle, the more shelf space I got on the back bar. I can see it. Maybe it went from across the way and still see old Carter up there.
So you were thinking.
But, we did a lot of thinking.
You were thinking that it's hard to see the short guy.
Yeah.
Isn't that right? You're welcome.
The logo is very unique in itself, but the old Carter label. Now, was this a brand or did you start it this way?
It was just going to be Carter Whiskey Company, and I have to give credit to some of our friends over in Lexington. The Justins are really good friends of ours, both Justin Sloan and Justin Thompson. And when we were coming up with the name, it was going to be, like I say, Carter Whiskey Company. And JT said, "No, you can't just be Carter Whiskey Company. You got to be Old Carter Whiskey Company." I said, "You're right. That sounds way better. Sounds like I've been around for a while."
But the label has the classic that it was around. Yeah. I love the hand designed C that you have there. Yeah. It just works as far as.
For those that haven't seen it, should we grab a bottle and push it towards the camera a little bit since we're so far away?
That would be. I can't get up, but you can grab one.
Also, too,
good suggestion there.
I didn't want to have to.
If anybody at Facebook that's watching, if y'all have any questions for Mark, feel free to ask him, and I'll try to get him in here, and we'll ask him. I'm not Vanna, I can tell you that.
No, you are not. Definitely.
I think she's retired now. They did the last show, so you could just.
I think she's still got a leg up on her.
I guess we don't have to show any more bottles.
You're great. You're saying I got a shot.
Yeah, a shot of whiskey.
That's about it.
Yes, there you go.
So for the club, we're drinking the club bourbon right now. Good. So during the year, Mark, do you have a set number of bourbons and rye that you put out for the club members only, or is it just kind of
we try to do 6 a year is what we said we would do for them.
Right. Is it 3 and 3? Is it just a whatever?
It's whatever.
Okay.
Yes, whatever we're working on. And sometimes we actually even do. The club was going to do some of the national releases because club members would sometimes say, "Well, we'd like to get some of the ones that are released and not have to go chase it down." So. We actually hold some back to the club, and then they get an offering of the national releases. We usually do 3 different types of releases. We do, and this is kind of the lineup. We do a bourbon, we do the rye, and we do American whiskey. And those are the national releases. And what we've been doing, which was kind of fun, is when we do actually a different distribution in a state, we will end up sometimes making just a blend for them, a very small batch of maybe 750 bottles.
And that brings me to a little story about how.
Hold on. I got a question for you.
Okay.
So, have you ever had a group podcast be a part of your club?
Well, we have the some of these people actually have podcasts and do a lot of different things, and they have their own brands, some of them, and restaurants and things like that, because they want to get the product, and it was a good way to get product to their, especially in Kentucky. If you have a restaurant, you can actually, since these are not offered to the general public, a lot of the OC stuff, which is for the old Carter Social Club, it goes directly on their back bar sometimes.
I think Jeff's saying we need a Scotchy Bourbon.
Oh yeah, I
we
think
want to join as we would all.
if you join as a group, you're only going to get still one bottle.
No. I get that. But how many bottles a year? 6. So there's 6 of us. So my wife included. So yeah. So I mean, we could that would be a possibility.
So
right?
that brings up a great
so
point before Nash's story.
Yeah.
So I know I was actually on the email distribution for the original introduction
Mm-hmm.
of the Carter Social Club. Are you guys still taking members? If somebody wants
We
to
have
sign
a wait.
up?
We'll have everybody sign up. We have a wait list right now. So we got a couple hundred people waiting to get on. If people drop out, then we'll take new people in.
So you're capped at 350.
Yeah, right now, because
Is that a distribution thing, or
it's
is that
actually
from
production.
club use?
It's really for production. It's still hard to, if we still have to make it, we have to have enough. Not everybody always takes their allocation each time. You don't have to. If it's offered to you, you might want it. Most people do, but some people say, well, I can't really, I don't want to buy one right now. It will go to
Can I
other
buy
company.
Yeah. You can put me on it. That's a different list, and I want to be at the top of that one.
He's going with the new on deck policy.
Yeah, because
Old Carter on deck.
he initially when he brought it up, I wasn't quite yet. It was. I mean, that's a couple. It's been a couple years, right?
Yeah, we based it. Actually, Brian Booth came on and really helped out because we thought it was going to be a nonprofit thing or something like that. But we have to be for profit. Just too much filing and everything else. So he came in and he is actually in charge, and has been for a long time, of the social club and scheduling and all that. And he did a phenomenal job. So that's who usually. I'm going to pass this over and let you guys.
So I just say,
because it's going to be too hard for me.
We're passing the bottle too. This place is amazing looking. Like you feel like you're stepping back into an old parlor. Of a mini mansion, on Mansion Road here in Louisville. So if you ever have the opportunity to get brought up here by a member, you should take it because the ceilings, the lockers, the accoutrements.
It's got a dusty note on it.
It's amazing.
Well, one of the things too with the club, you get to bring actually, it's like 5 other people with you if you're a club member. So it's really kind of social, and it's unbelievable all the people that sometimes 2 groups will come at the same time. You can join them, and they actually kind of know each other a lot of the time,
Mm-hmm.
and so which is kind of you join, but they've never met. They've only met on social media. So it's kind of fun to throw them together because in the community you're talking about the whiskeys and all the things you like and what you've just had somewhere that that everybody should try. Not just our product, but all the products out there.
No other products. If you're here, he's trying this. This is crazy.
Have a question from Chris Furry. What is Mark's favorite style of whiskey? If not OC, what's he sipping on? And
I always love this question. I've heard other people that are producers that have answered, and I've heard different ways that they've answered. I've thought about it a lot. I'm one of the guys that wants to try everything, and what I'm usually trying is something that has just come out that I've heard it's good that I haven't had. I said I don't know about that. I want to try that. I want to know about it because the more things I taste and experience, I think further my education for my flavor profiles. Don't happens to a lot of people is they get into just drinking their own and not seeing everybody else's stuff, and you kind of get just that house palate, we call it.
Yeah, and you're not bringing new ideas to the table.
You're not, because something innovative.
I'm a big believer that we might be riding the wheel, but that doesn't mean there's not something better. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I have to taste, doing the podcast, I have to taste awful lot of whiskey. And then also, I'm not a big drinker of whiskey because it's usually special occasions, because if I was always tasting and drinking, you gotta not let it bite you. But
Exactly.
But I'm just even in these two, you taste a lot, and there's a lot of ways of going. But if you're talking about what Old Carter is, Kentucky whiskey. And even though some of it's, to me, it's being produced at MGP or, where it's being produced, it's this area type thing. But the age on it, what you consistently do is the palate of pulling it from the barrel is the caramels, the toffees, the butterscotches, all those flavors that are in there, mixed with the wood, with those wood tannins. You never get it over. It doesn't ever taste like, just even this 15-year that we're tasting right here. You get the proof, you get the age, but you don't get any. There's never a bitterness of the barrel where a lot of times when you're dealing with a lot of batches. Now, there's a lot of people who love that oak bitterness. They love that oak, those tannins. But from this standpoint, it's not too, like, even when it comes through, it's almost all. That one over there had the toffee caramel flavor, and it was almost all that, but it's not too sweet, because you can sometimes get it and it's way too sweet.
Yes.
So, the balance of what you're doing throughout these is so amazing to me. And now you could get into the story of the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
We came around back to get to that story.
So
This is a good time to go to the bathroom.
first time
TV time.
Tiny was introduced to Old Carter whiskey.
December 4th, 2021.
I feel like we need to play a really sad song.
I had just come off of COVID, too. I had had COVID for long COVID for over a month. And I had come, and we went up with Alan Bishop, and we did. He was doing his Alan Bishop experience with Bo Cumberland, and we actually went out and did some distilling in the woods with him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But he brings this bottle.
I stopped at one of my favorite stores in Corbin, Kentucky.
Oh, gosh. That's Brian's hometown.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I stopped in Corbin, Kentucky, and walked in. They had like 6 bottles of Old Carter. So immediately I picked up a couple, and it happened to be the 1KY batch.
Oh, yeah.
And so I brought them up, come into the hotel room, and when they got there, it was like, well, let's have a celebration pour. So that was the first one I popped open, and we all had a little pour. Oh my gosh, he just went crazy because I could not get him away from that bottle.
He had all these other bottles, and he goes, "What do you want to drink now?
What do you want to drink
I'm like,
next?"
Old Carter.
He was like,
So
Old Carter.
You know what he said? That's the first good thing that president did.
So anytime he comes to my house, what do you want to drink, Jeff? Because I got shelves of over 700 bottles, and I've got several different batches of Old Carter.
Well,
What do you want to drink? Old Carter.
I want to thank you for the support. You guys have been really good. I tune in from time to time and see you guys are actually tasting Old Carter and stuff and talking about it. And I know, that's a great support for us, actually, our brand.
I'm always on the search for it.
Well, and what's really special about being here
different
today,
batches. So.
looking at all the bottles, is, and people out there will attest to this, because you don't walk into a store or anywhere and really see Old Carter. Maybe you're lucky and they've got a bottle, but you don't go in and see 10 bottles, 30 bottles. This is like
Hundreds of
this is
bottles.
Amazing, because I'm looking through and I'm like, holy cow, that's really cool. Never seen that, because you don't ever see it.
No, the coolest to me is the
little ones.
Those are 125s or 375s.
Well, those were 200s.
200s.
We have the 200s, the 375s.
I want to beg to differ.
So
because
200.
How do you
you
get
stick that in your pocket?
How do you
I
get
know
200s?
one
Gotta be
place
part of the
that I can go to,
That's
and
the only way.
I will
That
be
was the
stopping
only way
there on
around.
the way home.
Where that came from.
That, usually they have around 10 to 12 bottles of Old Carter, and I always stop it. That's where I pick up a couple.
Because he knows I'm going to be.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
So
Well, we, those little 200s and 375s are actually the older, the Kentucky Straight that we purchased 100 barrels back, in 17. One of the things we figured that we could make it go a lot farther for our club members. And we used to do pop-ups quite a bit, and we'd have a lot of people standing in line to get our product. But, what would end up happening is, it would go out in the parking lot and people would end up just flipping it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we that's when we came up with, well, let's just give it to the club, let them have the chance to buy it. They should be the ones who get it. So
that is the perfect size bottle.
No.
I mean, it makes a kid's soccer game so much more tolerable.
So I just want to say this is the single barrel. This is barrel 10, and it's 116.6, and there was 139 bottles of that.
And it is
Only
so
139.
Yeah.
Wow.
This
well,
is
you figure 15 years. I mean, it's been in there.
honestly the best. This is the best 15-year anything I've ever drank. I mean,
This is like
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So,
this is like liquid creme brulee.
I like creme brulee.
Yeah, I do too.
Is it a gym?
It's funny because the nose has got that little bit of that vintage spirit smell, that kind of. I had heard,
Oh, yeah.
I heard you
And
say kind of
I'm
the
not.
smell of a dusty.
I'm not really that big. 15 is a good, age for whiskey. You can get it too old and you can get woody.
Well, I'm sure
or
that some of
whatever.
the 15 years can be. You have
We
to
have
be
to select
tasting
it.
through. Yeah,
And we
it has
do.
to make it there.
We, when we do a blend, even, and you this is the only single barrel that we're tasting, but when we do a blend, we taste every barrel, and we will pull 60 barrels and taste through 60 barrels, pull out the ones that we think are the best, and then start blending. And we will do as many as 30, 40 blends before we fall upon one that we go, yeah, that's it. When it raises the hair on the back of your arm or your neck, or you go, wow, that's it. I think we're
Usually
done.
mother-in-laws do that.
Well, I mean, so it's like it's just like the story of Crown Royal, how they did 900 blends for the king and came up with that one for in 1939. When you think about that time period and everything, wow. But it's the same thing. You guys are carrying out that tradition. You're just looking for that high quality to get the best blend.
And you said it correctly too. It's that balance between all the things you're looking for. Mm-hmm. You want some sweetness at the end. Always, we were always going to have that. We're not really big on any bitter note.
Well, also this is a single barrel, okay, and it's balanced too. There is a perfect balance of oak in this one. If it would have gone further, it could have added some, but there's no bitterness. So when you guys are selecting your 15-year single barrel, the same process is going through, you guys are going through the same process to put out that quality.
And when we taste through there with a single barrel, we, since we didn't do anything selected, we want it to taste like that we blended it almost.
This is evolving though. What's great about drinking this is that every drink it's evolved a little bit.
I love
started out with that barrel influence, a lot of that barrel influence. You taste a lot of the barrel. Now it's getting the dark cherry notes are coming out, and I'm getting the dark cherry and almost a little chocolate in it.
Yeah, but you're also picking up some of the char of the barrel. Mm-hmm. I actually picked the char up on the finish, but there's no. It tastes this mouthfeel and amazing. This the actual that's how it coats your whole mouth with flavor.
It's that second and third sip. I was getting like that vanilla pudding, the caramelized sugar,
the baked good flavors. Coming out.
But now I'm getting the cherry and those fruits are coming through.
Cherry
on the end.
We know cherry now, don't we?
The thing that I can't. This has.
We know cherry because we tried it.
This fills the entire mouth.
Yeah,
like I can actually feel it in my upper cheeks.
Yeah,
and it's unusual that
that's
any whiskey would.
And I think
we do that.
I think you said that earlier that's something that y'all strive for is a good mouthfeel.
Oh gosh, if it doesn't, I don't like wimpy anything, wine or whiskey.
Yeah.
It's got to have that thickness to it.
Yeah.
You know, if something coats your mouth and hangs around. That's, I think, a sign
Thin is
of
not a good word.
It really isn't. You
No.
know, it's young or thin.
It is
You
in
know,
supermodels, but not so much in bourbon.
Hey, just from a standpoint, imagine making an old fashioned with that.
And-
Holy,
you know,
And I would.
I think I would put. I think I
I'm
would
up for
punch
the
somebody.
challenge.
Or cereal.
I think I would punch somebody.
you know, and we're
Why would you want to mess up something that?
I would
Yeah.
drink a little bit of this and like this, and then I would love because the flavors are in there would just exceed all expectations of a drink. Drinks are art too.
Can absolutely be elevated by the better the stuff going in.
It really is. You know, when I started doing Manhattans a long time ago, and it was with just Maker's Mark, regular
Right.
Maker's Mark. And it was fine. And then I saw this thing on the back bar. It was Booker's, a 126 or 1.
Ooh,
Yeah.
look at
And I
that.
go, geez, I get like a drink and a half with that one. And I tasted it. I go, you know, it sure got a lot more flavor.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
and it really holds up to a cocktail. And so that's why we went with full proof to begin with. And also, you know, we said, drink it how you like it. You bought the bottle. If you want to put it on a rock, put it on a rock. You want to put water in it, put water in it. You know, if it's too strong for you. But we're going to give you our full flavor, the most flavor we can possibly give you in a bottle. And then you take it from there. American whiskey can make one of the great, you know, because it's usually 130s or to 140, somewhere in there. Our American whiskeys make a great cocktail because it'll hold up against almost anything.
Yeah, because especially in like an old fashioned, your bitters and your simple syrups or your sweeteners can overpower the bourbon. Right? If it's a weak bourbon,
Yeah.
it
Well,
will
yeah,
just take
there's
over.
a skill. Not everybody thinks that their palates all taste different, but I mean, honestly, I would say this your bourbons and your ryes have something for everybody in them. When you've got the proof, you got the high proof and the big, bold, you know, mouthfeel. And
Mark, when the 15 year came out, was that only available to the club?
Yes. Yeah, it just was released. In fact, the 10 and the 22 were released at the same time.
so we're all signing up for the waiting list, right, guys?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. On deck.
Rise, I get baking spices and
That's what you do on Fridays.
This is-
and rye spices, you know.
So it was easier with no traffic.
But this, I'm getting a lot of
It's just
fruit.
taking this right off the rails, right?
So-
Let's get back off of Chris's liver.
Yes. So this is a rye, and
Yes, it is.
this is one of our ryes. This batch 14 rye, and it's got a little power to it.
That rye
You know,
spice is
it's
strong.
it's 123. You know, proof wise,
It goes.
it's pretty smooth.
You know what I like about that?
Sure
The
is.
color on that is
Yeah.
exceptional.
Isn't it? Isn't it nice?
It's got a
Yeah, but it's
lemon,
coffee.
lemony
I go-
grass, like a lemongrass flavor almost at the
Mhm.
beginning.
Yes,
I get
but
that.
the dark. It's like a. Oh my god! It's almost like I get like a Starbucks dark roasted coffee, black coffee flavor on the finish.
There's like a tea, maybe.
So
a,
that's this has got the flavors. It actually brings out the rye spice a little bit more of that lemongrass that you're talking about, right?
yeah. I get the
But then all of a sudden the sweetness of there's just what would you say what's the a little bit of caramel and then a dark coffee.
There's a little bit of almost like that sugar when you're making your own caramel, but it hasn't quite started to brown. There's that. So I also am a cook, so that's why I'm picking out some flavors here that are. I'm just like, the hell is that doing in a bottle?
In a bottle of rye, because
Well,
that's crazy.
You know, people say we make rye for bourbon drinkers. That's what, you know, it's been said quite a bit, and so we kind of picked that up. Well, we didn't make that up, but that's what people say, you know, because it tastes more like bourbon. I like rye. You know, I think it's more, you know, actually complex a lot of times. It's got more flavors. But there's so many.
Your rye is.
Yeah, there's a lot of young ryes. And rye got a bad name, kind of like Merlot got a bad name for, you know, wine. It was wimpy or it was young or whatever. You know, rye needs time. if you get to about 7-year-old rye, to 12-year-old rye or something like that, you're going to start getting some magic happening.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a 95.5. What's really interesting on the back, there's always, transparency because we have to put on where it was distilled at. This says it was distilled in actually Tennessee. This is supposed to be in Tennessee, but it's 95.5. Tennessee didn't make a 95.5. So this is MGP, came down from MGP to, we believe, we don't know for sure, but this is what we kind of think happened. It was actually Dickel bought this from MGP and stored it. And then they decided that was not their profile, so they ended up selling it. And so we ended up tasting it and liking it and buying it. And so the difference here is where it was stored at.
So
again, what batch number?
This is 14.
Okay.
There was 15, right?
Well,
You had 15.
there's a
You
15.
just-
We
Because that's what you bought,
I
right?
think I have 12.
there's 12. In fact, we're going
12
to
is the
taste.
rye.
Yeah, we're going to
Yep.
taste 11 rye.
I think I have 12.
And that's where you get to the point, the weather and the temperatures all
You-
affecting the barrels.
You know
And-
that now.
and
All of us are
yes,
getting to know
yes.
that.
Terroir.
It is.
Yeah.
It's just
You know,
terroir.
It
really is.
It's where
is
the
it-
corn's
is-
grown and where the wheat's grown.
And where it's stored,
Yeah.
if it's like Texas or
Yeah.
Montana or
We're about to see.
here.
I mean, I really think Pennsylvania is going to explode
Yeah.
with rye
Oh,
because that's the
I
place.
thought you meant the whole state.
That's the place where rye grows the best. It was always rye.
It really was.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and you can
It's
just
vein rye.
see that starting to come out, and you see
Yeah.
those distillers,
Well,
that are
so-
coming out of Pennsylvania, bringing back the rye.
And so much of the rye is imported through British Columbia now that it would be nice to see that make a resurgence here in the States because of the popularity of bourbon. I think.
Did you say something about Canada? Is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about?
Canada.
Yeah.
I'm not hoping for that. No, I'm
No. But that's where a lot of the rye.
Yeah.
You know, they say
Yeah.
the new boom is actually
It's like their only thing they
storing
can
is going
grow.
to be in Springfield, Ohio, right around where I live. There's this area where there's it's just creating this awesome flavor. But if you want to try it, just get with me. I'll bring the barrels up and we'll store them and see how they do.
I'll sample them every month.
Oh, I wouldn't wait that long.
We see what happens with stored barrels around you.
So, if you ever
I
need,
break them down though.
if you ever need any help tasting barrels, because it's becoming too overwhelming, we volunteer to help.
Yeah, CT's name will change to what barrel?
Yeah.
Yeah, CT just wants to taste one barrel. Yeah.
No, I'll
just
tell you.
kidding.
So the thing, I am a self-professed not lover of rye.
A lot of people are.
But this is pretty damn good. But what I find unusual about this is usually rye. It's the reason I don't like it is it's just pure spice.
Too much spice sometimes.
This
I get
when
that
I pick
too.
Up, I'm literally picking up like that sage and rosemary, almost like
Dry sage.
Yeah, that's and I mean I don't know how many people have ever put
Yeah,
dry
no,
sage on
I
your
could
tongue.
see that rosemary in there because my wife started making rosemary stuff, and there's definitely that finish.
Where people are going to be more familiar with rosemary is if they've ever watched Gordon Ramsay or anybody on TV make a steak, they're throwing some rosemary in for butter, and they're butter basting, and
Really.
so that flavor that it
Yes.
imparts. Really,
Butter
this
and
is
rosemary.
this is an 8-ounce fillet in a cup.
Love it.
I mean, it's
I think it would go really well with that.
It's actually it's actually about a 1 ounce.
So I gotta tell you,
there, Carl. If you don't know your ounces,
if you got this,
muscle
thank
power.
you for that. I'm sorry about whatever God gave you.
We're ready for that.
The
The buttery mouthfeel adds to it and just complements it.
you know,
So,
Mark. I think you hit it on the head. I would love to sit down to just a fantastic steak and a glass of this. So if you have this in a 375, we're taking it to Pat's. We're taking it to Pat's later.
He does
we
not.
did not make this one of the 375.
So I don't know how Pat would feel, but I mean, I think we could get it in.
Yeah, this is a small batch, and so this is 1,612 bottles. So this went out nationally to actually 8 different distributors, and so they all ended up with about 200 bottles. You divide 65.
Don't go far.
That's not much.
No.
That brings up a good question. How many states are you distributed in right now?
And can you please get Ohio in there?
There'll be a day. We love
Please,
Ohio.
yes.
Yeah, I used
We
to,
love Ohio.
Yeah, I used to go to Ohio all the time.
On purpose?
Oh yeah,
He said, "Give me up, I love."
love her.
What just happened?
But,
Oh,
but
Danielle.
yeah, how many states are you distributed in right now?
I think it's 10 or 11 states right now.
Okay.
Our New York has is Sternick, and it's like New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. So that's 3. Then you go down to actually
Georgia.
DC. So DC has like 2 to 3 states that they take care of.
I have the best time finding your product in Maryland.
Maryland is really
for
good
some
about
reason-
holding the price really good. They actually do it where it should be.
Opposed to Kentucky.
Yeah, the price point should be about 195 to 200. Something. And they're one of the few that really holds it at that.
Yeah.
Everybody else you can charge anything you want once you buy it if you're a retailer.
Although Ohio will hold it for you.
Yeah,
They do.
Yeah,
So
they
they
do.
hold it. That's one thing that's
control
great.
states do.
And that was at one point a bad thing, but since this boom, it's been a good thing for us because we can, when you do get a bottle, you're just paying MSRP. You're not paying,
Yeah.
You see it here in Kentucky and averages what, $3.30?
Yeah,
Right?
so I
Yeah.
walked into a liquor store in Maryland just because I had a few minutes to kill on the way to an
You
appointment.
called me.
And I'm like, they got old Carter on the shelf. And I think it was $2.79.
Fabulous.
That would have been batch.
Yeah.
I think that was the bourbon batch 12.
I'm saying this, anybody who's out there and sees an old card product for about, $200, let me know. I'll give you my credit card. You buy it for me and get it to me so I can pour it for people, all my friends. And I just had that happen in New York. They found some for $2.12. I said, buy me 3 bottles.
What?
Yeah. And it was a batch 12 rye.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I got 3 bottles coming back to me so I can go around and pour it all over the United States, wherever I go.
Oh, wow.
Well, so you need to come to Ohio. We just talked about
I'm probably going to be bringing those to Ohio.
Yeah, so let's make that happen.
Just think about those rules that everybody deals with when you're buying your own brand back.
My honey hole that I
But
stopped
that's
at on
very-
my way home it's $2.89 and it's like $3.13 with tax. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm hoping to pick up, like I say,
So I'm not going to add
the
to
rye and some
So
whiskey
that-
and bourbon.
That is, batch 11 rye, and that is the same, 95.5, but that is, from MGP in Indiana.
Look at the
So
color on that too.
115 proof.
Yeah.
Nice.
Look at that
Nice
dark
dark
color.
Yeah, nice.
I don't know if Tennessee was a little warmer or what, to get to 123,
Well,
where
it
to
is.
store that.
It's about.
This
On
is
average,
more
it's
like
about 15 degrees
a
warmer
classic
than
Yeah.
rock.
Yeah.
But they don't have the
you know,
cold colds that we have here. Like they don't see.
So that's why the proof went up.
Oh, you're 4 for 4 on complete palate. I mean, it's
He's
Yeah.
like the 100 for 100. I mean, when you're
complete
talking about
different
complete
nose
palate,
on it,
it's
too.
always
Yeah. The lemongrass note is gone.
Yeah.
This one doesn't have it.
So
It's more caramels.
Yes, Carmen.
Yeah.
Yes.
so
So there's
This is-
11 and
Oh,
sorry,
man, this
there's
is good.
11 and 12. So I
Holy
have 12.
crap.
I feel like it tastes more like that.
Yeah, 11, 12
This
are
That's
Similar-
why we're
similar.
here.
I think the
Because
14,
Okay,
14
people.
and 15.
batch 11 might
Same.
be
More
the
than
best
they were
rye I've ever had in
Tennessee.
my life.
Okay, so they've got that different.
does it
I
beat
can't-
Roz?
Are you sure this is a rye?
Yeah.
The caramel is crazy.
There's
There's
this,
coffee
I
and
mean,
You know-
this
you know
is
what?
not
I-
really
I would
a
say
rye that I've drank.
that you've entered into.
Before.
You could just like fool everybody that this is a high rye bourbon.
Can you imagine?
It's
It's
right
right
there.
95%.
Right,
rye.
95.5.
You know,
Yeah.
that is a good.
But
rye.
this is-
wait,
but this
at
is-
115 proof.
So
And it's not hot.
And it drinks
It's
like
not
it drinks
spicy.
like
It's
brown
not
It's
hot, it's
balanced.
not spicy.
Yeah,
Oh
this,
my gosh.
thi-
Caramel,
you know what this
sweet.
is? This is
Just a little hint of
that's
like
exactly
black
the
pepper.
same as the Watershed.
You know what? I was
That's
a little
my
worried
batch
about sitting
12
on the
is
outside
same
wing,
too.
Since I'm the last to get the
without the
bottle,
watershed,
I'm
it's the same
I'm
as
gonna help myself.
So now what do? You buy all these barrels,
there.
right? Now, do you taste through them at MGP or do you
No, we don't get.
here, and then you see.
We don't get. We
you
don't get
the Macaulay treatment?
No, we don't. Nobody. Nobody really does that. You buy. You
You're
bring
the
back.
only guy that.
And you get the barrels, and you buy quite a few of them at a time. Now you get at 100 at a time, and you're not going to use them all, so they're going to keep developing. So once they're in your possession, you're going to keep tasting. And
they're yours.
Are there ones that you ever kick out, like completely?
Oh yeah, hell yeah! No, well we just put it back in. We rebarrel. We do all kinds of things. So then we'll come back and see them again. We keep
Okay,
revisiting.
so there's so much stuff.
It's kind of like a girlfriend from high school. She may not look as good as she used to, but you still want to go out and have coffee.
Hey,
I'll get us off the
Carl's
subject,
back in high
but that brings up a good question.
Really?
So,
I was going to say that brings
that
up.
where are we? Yes, you're going down that rabbit hole. No,
I mean, about the
You can always
once you get the barrels and
Yeah.
age them, do you age your barrels at several different places?
We actually are at two different places
Okay.
these days. We're out in Frankfurt
Okay.
and in Midway.
Okay.
And so
I know Wilderness Trail seems to have a lot of space, and they're housing more, I think, of other people's stuff than they are their own stuff right now.
Jeff and I were in Midway Thursday, so
Yep.
it was muddy
Oh,
and
man.
rainy.
And rainy.
Holy crap!
So Mark, let's talk about Bourbonomics.
yes,
So, and yes, that's my word. I trademark that word.
Word.
Bourbonomics.
It's on a
Wait a
shirt.
minute, is
so
this
you know
George Bush? This is George Bush.
I'm not. We will not talk politics because you will not like it.
Mm-hmm.
So Bourbonomics. I mean, so I've had the pleasure of going out west, obviously where your vineyards are, and trying some of the distilleries there. And for them, it's all about cash flow. I mean, they struggle because bourbon is not a money making startup.
Oh yeah.
It has a very long lead time.
oh yeah,
High
absolutely.
barrier to entry if you're going to try and produce a nice quality product. So a lot of times they're putting out a 2-year or
4-year,
or
if they're lucky.
4-year
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
because they can't afford to keep it in a barrel any longer.
Yeah.
Now, the good news is they're making it from distillate, so their entry costs are lower.
Yes.
But I think one of the things when people see a bottle of Old Carter, they look at the price tag and they're like, I'm not dropping $200 on a bottle of bourbon. And you know what? I don't know that you're trying to appeal to that buyer. I think. Do you want to talk a little bit about what it takes to source a 10 or a 9 or a 12-year-old barrel versus what it takes to distill it into a new oak barrel and watch it for 15 years?
There's a lot of ways to do things, and we started with actually brand new barrels, rebarreling, which were at least $300. And I'm a builder, I was a carpenter, and so wood was so important, and with the wine, it was so important. And when you start adding $300 just to double oak, a double barrel, you're starting, there's other ways to do it. You can put a tea bag in there, and it's called.
And you're talking about a barrel that has
a real barrel, brand new barrel.
But this is back in the old Kentucky days, right?
Kentucky, we're still doing the same thing now with a lot of this product. What we do today is we are a little bit more refined on how much, new double barreling we do, because you can get too much wood. Yeah. So you have to really, that's what the blending's all about. Well, and that costs money. And when you start getting older product instead of a 2-year-old product or 4-year-old product, and you're getting to at least 7 years to 10-year,
So
and the American whiskey, we have stuff that's actually in this next one, actually this American whiskey we have, this has got 18-year-old whiskey in it. So that kind of, and there's nothing left in this barrel.
So
the barrel's like.
So what you're saying is it's legal in all 50
Wait!
states.
Don't put that back.
Well, that's what I say.
I mean, you let us taste that in New Orleans, and
So all those things, people don't know that. They just say, "Oh, it's $200. It's too much money," but they don't know. Nobody's actually ever educated them what really goes into making that, and especially at a small amount. Hand blended small batches. There's really, if we didn't charge that, we would not even be around today.
Right. And
Exactly.
nobody knows.
And we have not raised our prices since we started.
But nobody knows.
Well, Kentucky out or
They
for
don't-
us.
They don't. You don't know what it's like to have a barrel and you get it at a certain amount and then you're letting it go and you're like, oh, that's good. And all of a sudden the yield is almost nothing because it can do that, right?
Yeah.
After 10 years, you're lucky if you have half the barrel.
So I know what distillate.
Sometimes you get the barrel and it's empty.
Yeah, absolutely.
We just did
So
that.
I'm not a venerable member of the bourbon community and the finite details, but I've learned a lot about it over the last several years. So let's rewind to when you're in your old Kentucky days and you're starting out. For you to double barrel back then, a barrel of distillate was a fraction of the cost of what it is today.
Uh-huh.
Because demand is so much higher.
Yep.
There's so many brands competing for the same juice.
Yeah.
Barrel cost is
So for you to have double barreled back then, adding that $300 barrel to the mix, that was how much of that was added to your product cost, the actual cost of
Well,
it? Was it 20 or 25%? It probably was back then.
I'm trying to, do the math on it. It really, again, we knew it was going to cost us more money. We were waiting more time. It was already older stuff. And we said, to do this handmade product that we're doing, just like our wines, I was already charging it probably $200 for a bottle of wine. So I said, well, it takes that much effort to do this. I think if we're going to stay in business, we need margin and we need to make a product that we don't cut corners at all. Whatever we do, we're going to make the finest product. And that's all we care about. Everybody can use the same juice, but not do all the same stuff that we do. And so, we think it's worth the $200.
But the economics have also severely changed since you started with Carter. I mean, what you could buy a barrel for a 10 or 12 year whiskey in 2019 versus today.
It's been a kind of a roller coaster on barrel cost as they're coming down again, but they were steadily going up. And they do when there's nothing in the barrel. Then they actually come down a little bit because people don't want to buy an empty barrel.
We just did a
paid $3,000 for nothing in there.
But they were saying 144 bottles in the yield of the barrel, which was a spectacular version of this brand, but it was 72 bottles. Yeah. That's half the barrel right there. Like you said, it was almost 10 years, like you said, and that's something that you just don't know. And then also, like you said, it depends. My favorite time.
Did you get some of the American?
Yeah. This is just So that's his first time tasting us. We've tasted this. We tasted this at your presentation. And,
Oh no, let me just come back, Mark. I haven't finished the rye yet.
Yeah, he wants a little more.
I got a
but
second
you know
one.
what? We should hurry up and drink the rest of the.
There's none left.
Well, since I had the last bottle, I helped myself to second. Which
Looks
if you
like
haven't-
you
if you get-
helped
okay,
yourself
you've
to
never-
second.
so this
Yeah.
is the unique
so
thing.
I'm not going to lie. With this many chins, I've had seconds a lot.
Okay, so the American whiskey is what makes it American whiskey. What everybody so there's a lot of people that I've been talking to that especially do when they purchase. They've been doing a lot of cool things because there's a way of doing it where the original distillate gets put into a used barrel.
That is correct.
And then you take it, and a lot of them are taking it and then on the back end, putting it into a new oak barrel to bring in their flavors. And it's just like, there's so much you can do on the artistry. But what I found is, tell me if I'm incorrect, but if you put new distillate into a used bourbon barrel, which instantly makes it not bourbon.
That's
it's
correct.
American whiskey, but everything's the same except now you have a little bit of what was in there before affecting it, but it's bourbon. And then also you have, like, in my opinion, part of the flavor that you get off that char and that caramel that's been absorbed by the old bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
But if you leave it in there long enough, and we know this from Scotch, right? It's like you can leave it go 15 years, or it matures in a slower way where you don't have to taste it every single month because it's just gaining so much flavor that you have a little bit more time to figure out what it's doing. Is that correct? It's more of a...
Well, we started this project, right off the bat. We found, what was 27-year-old. We bought like 20 barrels of 27-year-old American whiskey. What was known as really light whiskey.
Right.
And we didn't like the name light whiskey, so we asked around, and we said, can we just call it American whiskey? And they said, no.
You didn't like the name whiskey?
Well, light whiskey. This is really light.
That's Carl's podcast.
But you're right. I understand why you don't.
Literally my name.
It's all whiskey. This is all bourbon rye, whatever. It's all whiskey. And so we said, well, let's change the
By the way,
name.
your podcast name is going to be the OC.
So we said, let's change the name because nobody wants light whiskey.
You're right. You're 100%. That has a
100%
connotation.
Right. Yeah.
So
You know what? You'd have a lot of chicks drinking.
I don't think they would be drinking this.
Hey, 134? Yeah. Yeah, 134? That's
Mark.
crazy.
So I know one chick that would.
Question on this bottle is
Oh, God.
how is the distribution of this?
Well, this is again, almost all of this is to our distributors, not pub.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is distributed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we usually turn out 2 batches at a time, about 1,600 bottles each, maybe a little more. This one here, let's see what we ended up doing on this. This was huge. This is 2,700 bottles.
11?
Yeah. And a lot of 18-year-old in here. We also, first thing we did was double oak it, and give it flavor. And so
For
again,
whiskey.
we were one of the first to
A
double
double
oak
oak
all
whiskey.
this.
Yes.
Light whiskey and name it, American whiskey because it sounds so much better. It is what
And there is
it
no
is.
category for it.
There is none. All of it's American whiskey if you really want to know.
Yeah.
Well,
But
it's whiskey and it was made in America.
Yes. God bless America.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? Mark, I don't believe in labels.
That is
so
so-
I'm okay with that.
So thick and huge. Oh my gosh.
And the thing that it's definitely it was probably distilled at least 160 proof or above. It entered the barrel over 125, went into a used barrel. We know these things, and so, but, it tastes good. So
Yeah.
let's use
Damn
it.
good.
Yes.
So let's
But-
make some out of it.
You know what?
But honestly, that's really what it
Chocolate.
comes down to. All the categories that you want to put on shit, everything you want to do, but in
Did
reality,
you say shit?
fuck yeah. So
There we go.
anyway,
Now we're getting booted off Facebook.
no, we're not. It only,
It's late enough.
yeah, you gotta wait.
Yeah.
8 minutes. We waited way long. Anyways,
The
so,
robots don't
but it
listen.
really,
Robots
you're right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It
The robot
tastes good,
stopped
right?
watching this about an hour ago. didn't
There's
it?
2 things whiskey needs to do. It needs to take you where you need to go, and it needs to taste good.
Absolutely.
And
And all the other stuff is pomp and
Irrelevant.
circumstance,
It really
but in
is,
reality, that's what.
There is no age statement. We dropped the age statement a
Because
few
it's
years back because
It's American whiskey.
we have 18, a lot of it was all the way up to 13 years we would put it in there. And even the 13 had a ton of 18-year-old, whiskey in it. But now we find that, for me anyway, and when we blend, we're freshening it up and we may have 8-year-old in the 18. It's a balance again. And so it's what we like.
So-
it's
and,
our power.
And again, I think this is what people kind of get hung up on in this.
Well,
Yeah,
I
age
think
statement.
Correct.
They
I
get
think
stuck.
statements.
We have
right,
two things
you're
that
right.
people get stuck on. They get stuck on proof,
Proof
and they get
age.
stuck on
Age.
age.
but you have to.
But if it
Exactly.
tastes good, it doesn't.
But
matter.
so that's the
Yeah.
American whiskey
Exactly.
category for you.
Good
But you,
point.
but
Very
you
good
have
point.
to love it, right?
Yeah.
you're not bound by some of the stuff to put this 15-year or put, but you're basically blending, and you're like, you've got all these barrels, and you know their taste because I've gotten to blend one time, and there's a barrel that's really neutral. But it works in blending because if it's too spicy, you add a little bit of that.
We used to,
and you could just do that with no rules.
One of the things that's really interesting when you do blend, you can take and you have maybe 15 barrels to do one of these batches. That's going to be about 2,700 bottles. You'll take the best barrels you have. You're like, okay, even on a small one. You say, okay, these are the very best. They're all delicious. You put them all together and you got shit.
They don't work.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's just, it can be, you taste them, you say, it may need a little more of this or a little less of that.
So on barrel picks, it's the same way. I feel like when we do a barrel pick and there's 6 bottles and you take the 2 best ones and blend them, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
No.
But you take, maybe not the best one and a good one. Yeah. And it's like, wait a second.
Well,
this just came along.
You
know what I find?
You said proof-wise that you had a 98 proof one that blew you away.
Absolutely.
It's not.
It's about flavor,
yes.
and as cooking, when you take make a great stock and you add water, no matter what the level of the stock would be, it would
it's still great.
It's still great as long as you don't put water in.
If you come from the similar time period as me, because Jack Daniels it was a thing, but you would drink it with Coke or you'd have it on the rocks because it was hot and it was spicy, and people would do shots of Jack, but that is 80 proof.
No.
And now somehow you have something that's 110 proof, and it's sipping whiskey.
It really is.
They're going, but they'll say the 80 proof tastes like water. I can't handle that. I'm like, wait a second.
No, you haven't tasted the right 80 proof.
Yes.
Exactly.
And what we say,
you burned all your taste buds off with 140 proofs, and you have no way to taste an 80 proof.
With no flavor.
So I just made the executive decision. We're coming back next Saturday for a podcast.
Podcast. But we say, at the end of the day, my favorite tasting note is one word: delicious.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all it has to be.
You know what I find interesting about this is it's got versus the other 4 products that we've tasted here today, the other 4 expressions of Old Carter. So I called it viscous.
Yeah.
Martin here, or Super Nash, said so he's from South Carolina. He just said it was thick.
He said it. You know what? Yep, I did hear Nash refer to it as a gym.
Jim.
I say both of them are correct.
Jeff, I know you got that.
Definitely
Are you still listening to Facebook?
And that's
What? No, I'm not listening.
Because the microphone just went.
Let's agree to great, though.
No, this one's on.
Oh, is it?
That's one. Yeah.
Okay.
Mark, great.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you for being here, you guys.
And
Mark, it's all terrible. We should take it all with us.
Yeah, we got to get rid of it.
I know you said you had.
I'm taking the 15-year with me.
cookbook?
You guys.
Yes.
And all that. Do you have a website?
Well, I have a couple of websites. If you want to buy wine from us, it's just CarterCellars.com.
Right.
And, it's Old Carter Whiskey co.com for, signing up.
Any
or
thoughts about bringing the brands together where you can sell your wine,
Well, I don't think it'll ever,
license?
it'll probably never be mixed. They're independent, all of them. There's different ownerships.
Different partners.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
You got people that like grapes and you got people that like corn.
Yeah, and then,
I like both.
Actually, what's really interesting, exactly.
I like
Thank you.
both.
And
I
people do.
I like agave. I'm not going to lie. I like agave.
Yes.
I like grapes.
Yeah,
You like flavor.
I like rye.
Yeah.
I like chocolate.
I like coffee.
Yeah. It's just there's a lot there. There's only a couple flavors I don't like. One's formaldehyde on my rye. So, but that's not anything like that.
So, you licked a lot of dead bodies?
No, I wouldn't.
Well, there's another flavor that I came up with on that podcast, but I'm not going to mention it. So. But anyways,
no, I got to tell you, as a lineup, Mark, I know you just went to the cabinet as we were setting up, and you're like,
Hey, you need a lineup. You need the lineup, and that's what we do. It's it's bourbon, it's rye, and it's American whiskey. That's what we do.
Yeah. But I mean, what an
And we don't
interest-
do a lot of crazy
what an interesting
finishes.
what an interesting spread.
Why
so
would
you have
you?
everything from the traditional bourbony, caramel, vanilla, all the way through the spiciness of the rye. But you have a rye that really almost crosses over into almost
Thank you.
bourbon. Tremendous mouthfeel on almost everything. I mean, just like a full mouth of flavor. And then you finish with this American whiskey that has just that viscosity that I've never had anything that feels like I'm drinking something that could almost.
Yeah.
It's a cousin.
I forgot to say what the proof on this one was. It's low at 134.
I don't believe you. I
Yeah.
need a little bit more.
So now let's go back to the fun part. Now that we've tasted your products, any thought to producing a hazmat bottle?
We do have one out there. I was able to take one around, actually over into Europe, actually, to Scotland. And it was 141.3, I think it was, or something like that. And it's 17 years old, and it's the American whiskey.
Wow.
And so,
That was,
I poured it around a few places.
what batch was that?
It's a single barrel.
Single barrel in the 17 year.
Yeah.
I saw when that came out.
There was only two that should be out there. I had one, and they had one at the shop here.
So something like that. I mean, you produce a hazmat. I was wondering if, would you do a hazmat bottle for the club and see how it does? 'Cause-
Well, it exists, but it.
I'm just saying. I mean, there are 6 of us on the podcast, so $1,500 6 ways is. I mean, I spend more than that on a steak sometimes. So I mean,
He's buying my way, Mark.
And
As
we're
Mark.
getting ready to wrap this up.
So, yeah,
I want to say
yeah.
to everybody on Facebook.
I want to ask one more question.
Okay.
So you've got your stuff that's you distilled, and you're distilling every year.
Yes.
Right. So give us a preview of, as it's distilling, what your thoughts are. Are you is it aging and producing all the changes to distill yourself? Are those all in there? And are you know what I mean? Is that going to just make the whole brand better because you distilled?
Well, I think we'll always use source product,
Right.
Because we
makes
love
sense.
what people do. And this product, all these products, basically you've seen, are something somebody else produced, and then we took care of it from there. It's going to be fun to have stuff that we did the mash bills for, and said this is what we want, this is what we need. It's similar, but it will never be the same. Even if it was the exact same mash bill, it comes from a different place where it was produced at or distilled at.
Are you going to blend those in?
They'll be
cases? Or will they?
You never know. You never know. But we are straight.
Till you drink it, you don't know.
It is straight. Every product we have is
process,
straight,
right?
which means something. And a lot of people don't even know what straight means. That means it comes from the same state, and
it's a new millennium, so
Yeah.
that's okay.
yeah. So,
Well, we're not worried about it. It means it's been aged for 2 years or more, but it's always more.
and so we like the word actually straight because it keeps at least, it's not a lot of blended stuff. Things can get too muddy when you have too many different ingredients. And so I love keeping it, if it's in from, a lot of people can do it really well. Bardstown Bourbon Company does it really well with, doing collaborations. And, they've got 3 different, they got Indiana, they got, OKI did it really well to begin with, but, they've got, Tennessee, they got Kentucky, and they got Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that changes it. It's not straight whiskey.
It's not straight
right?
anymore. It's not straight bourbon. It's not straight rye.
So you didn't. There's a question we didn't ask,
And a lot of people don't even know that. And they just think, again, to do that takes more time. One of the greatest things I just saw was, people who can do bonded,
Are you
whiskeys.
are you shooting for a bonded now?
I can't do that until I,
You're not
really.
bonded warehouse.
Yeah, you got, well, it's not the warehouse. It's doing it all at one spot.
Yeah.
Maybe the
You would
stuff
have
we
to do it
distilled
all.
out there.
Yeah.
We could maybe do it all in one season. That could be, but that is a rare product.
Yeah, you watched we did the Bernie Lover,
And I
thing,
love,
and he just tells you how rare it is. You don't realize it.
When he told me of how rare it was, I go, you're
there's-
right.
There's a bunch of bondage out there that is always out there,
Yeah.
but there's not a lot of different brands. You know what I mean? It's just
a
a
tough
few
segment to
brands.
get
It's
into.
rare. Like you
Especially
said.
at the craft level. Like I feel like the bigger guys can do it.
Do it.
because
They're
they
the
can.
only. They're the ones who can do it.
And the regular consumer does not realize that.
Not yet. You
No,
know, and
no.
that is your job and our job to actually kind of
To
educate
them.
nicely
Yes.
and just tell the story.
Yes. And
Why
that's
these
that's
things
what
are
we're
what they
trying to do.
are. Like,
Yeah.
this is straight.
Yeah.
This is foolproof. This is double oaked, you know, or double barreled, not even double oaked. I had a conversation. Is it double barreled or double oaked? You know, because there's a difference in
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah.
And thank you for reiterating
Yeah,
that.
because
And,
People don't understand
explaining
that
to
two brand new
everybody.
barrels.
Yeah.
You may not necessarily be re-barreling into a brand new barrel.
Yeah, people don't understand that.
You can
when they hear
re-barrel into a used barrel. You can re-barrel into a brand new charred oak, or you can
Yeah.
drop the staves in, and it's all. Or
Yeah.
now they got the little wood
bag.
chains
Yeah,
or whatever.
chains.
Yeah,
So-
it's just
so
like
Marty,
they drop those in.
For those bourbon faithful that have stayed all the way through the podcast to this point,
Yeah.
I have one more question, and then I promise I will stop. Yeah, Andy, go ahead. Barrelhead.
sweet baby Jesus.
So, and his little swaddling cod stuck in your manger, so quiet and
6
beautiful.
pound 8 ounce.
So, as we went through the mash bills, you were a big fan of 99.1, which is an extreme, right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
99.1
Corn.
rye,
Yeah.
99.1 corn.
Yeah.
I mean, those are extreme mash bills.
95.5, but for rye.
Yeah.
95.5, yeah, but 99.1 for corn.
But, you know,
it's the
I gotta
extremes.
tell you,
Yeah.
we go on a lot. We talk to a lot of master
Yeah.
distillers and owners, and they're like 70, 30, 10 MGP.
Yeah.
So you're laying down your own juice for 7 years now. Will you tell us what you laid down?
Some similar, but
So,
maybe
so,
I
so
hear
you have
you.
you have a blend in the warehouse? You have some 99.1s and some.
Yes,
You're like-
I can say yes. We've done
So you have one barrel of 99.1.
No. We got a little bigger than that. We try to do like, you know, at least 50 or 100 barrels at a time.
But I've actually, now that I've met you and got to talk to you, you are a
He's trying
fan
to pull
of
you
the
in there.
99.1. You can tell when you talk about it what that is. And then most people, they're just going to be like, they check out of 99.1 because what?
I just had one guy. He was all over. You know, I don't really understand. You know, it was.
I know that
that's
guy.
5 or 50. It was, you know, what kind of what's the difference or what's like? You know, when you distill anyway, half the stuff goes away. It's still almost a barrel in the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
Really, you want great sweet distillate to start with. If you don't have that, you got nothing.
But if you want more of the grains in there, you would do pot still, which is a much more limited type thing. Because pot still, you can do those cuts and everything can be controlled on a much smaller level.
Absolutely.
But when you're doing the column still Kentucky thing, and that's where the barrel not only is a filter to filter out any of the impurities, but it's also the flavor
It's
driver,
really,
and it's just
ton of flavor profile. And then the rick house is a huge thing.
So
And the time.
So
The
low.
time.
So
All the stuff you can't
Time
speed
and
along.
temperature.
well,
yeah, I mean, so up by us, we have a company that is known for a city that had a river that burned. And they swear that they can take and put a barrel in a hyperbolic chamber and do differences in temperature and pressure.
Yeah.
I don't think there's no substitutes, Tom.
There isn't.
And
There
you know,
isn't.
I will say this. I mean, when somebody sees Old Carter on a shelf, and for those of you that are watching, I mean, Old Carter demands a premium price. It does. You have a premium price.
Yes.
And when
Yeah.
somebody's
Yeah.
in there and they're looking at bottles, I mean, they're seeing, you know, a Bardstown distiller at, you know, $25 or $35, and then they see Old Carter. You know, for the beginner, buy that Bardstown product. But, you know, for somebody that really is advancing themselves, and I'm not even going to say an advanced taster, I think this is a fantastic product for for an intermediate person.
Yes. And
If you were going to buy a premium bottle,
Yes.
as a introduction to premium bottles, I don't know that there's any of these batches here today
Not for me.
that you would go, oh my God, that was a horrible experience. I'm never going to buy another $200 bottle of bourbon.
No.
So I think a lot of that is you. It's your wine palate and your wine experience, and that's unique in this industry.
and your passion.
You
Well,
pick everything up.
and the
Because your-
people you
your
surround
passion
yourself
for what
with.
you do it has shown through in this podcast.
I can tell
Today.
you, you've converted me.
And
I'm
and I want to thank you so much for
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
I appreciate y'all. Yeah, really.
All
do.
right.
Appreciate you.
We're going to wrap it up.
and to wrap it up.
www.scotchybourbonboys.com.
One other thing.
Oh boy.
Everybody at Facebook, go out. If you get a chance, hunt these bottles
Find
down because they're just in a few states. Get out there, look for them. They're fantastic
Thank you.
And appreciate it.
and appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
you cannot go wrong, just as this guy was saying.
these batches we had here today.
So here we are.
All right. Check us out, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and X, and then also all the podcast formats, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and what's Apple Podcasts.
There you
And
go.
then remember that what we say is good bourbon,
Equals
good
good
whiskey
friends.
equals good
Carl?
friends,
Good time.
good
Good
times. Drink responsibly,
Responsibly.
don't drink and drive,
And
and
go
live
your
your
life
life dangerously.
And drink with Mark Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love you.
Little
Yeah.
Chris
Love you.
Steve-O's
Yeah.
gonna
If I
take
could do
us
this,
out.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you, I tell you, I tell you we must die.
Hey, Scotchy Bourbon Boys fans, this is Alan Bishop, Indiana's alchemist of the Black Forest. So I'm tuning in here today to tell you all about the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute channel on YouTube. If you're at all interested in the art of distilling, whether it be home distilling or professional distilling, and the intense geekery that goes into that process, then check out the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute on YouTube. I promise you're going to learn something you didn't know before about the arts.